This is Mrs. Haslauer's video on rotations about the origin. Under rotation, a figure is congruent to its image. That's really important. The other day we did a dilation which made the shape bigger or smaller, making them similar. Today we're going to learn another way to keep the image congruent. What you need to know by the end of the video is how to rotate about 90, 180, and 270 degrees. So you need to know 3 sets of rules. They're very important. The reason why you don't need to worry about anything bigger than the 270 is that the next section would be 360, which would bring you right back to your original. What I mean by this can be seen right here. All right, so here's my basic shape. Any type of shape that you have a point, a line segment, or a shape. In this case, we got the shape. And we're going to rotate it. Now, it's not as easy as it is here because all I have to do is click on this button and I'm going to rotate my shape around. All right, in the shape of a circle, there's 360 degrees in a full circle. A quarter circle is 90. We got a half circle at 180 and then a 3/4 circle at 270. Again, as I said, the 360 brings you right back to the original. Please notice that the shape stays the same. It just kind of flies around in a counterclockwise direction. What counterclockwise means is the opposite direction of a clock. So let's get started. Please take out your note sheet and follow along. So here we go. We're going to start off pretty basic by just rotating a line segment. But the thing is that you have to know your rules. It's not as simple as counting or anything like that like we did with our reflections. So the rules are the 90, 180, and 270. Please notice that your reflection is denoted by a capital R, not a lowercase r. The lowercase r was our reflection, which we did first. So what we're going to do, we're going to reflect the line segment AB 90, 180, and 270 degrees about the origin. We've got A at 1, 2, and B at 2, 5. So that's where we want to start. A at 1, 2, and B at 4, 5. We want to label, as always, and you want to find a straight edge to connect the 2 points. A line segment is just a piece of a line. All right, a line goes on forever in both directions. That's not what we want here. We just want a piece of that line, so it's called a line segment. And now we're going to look at our rule. A way to remember it is the flip and negate, flip and negate, flip and negate method. This is a way of writing down and remembering your 3 rules. So this is what I do every time. I don't memorize them individually. I memorize them as a whole and then just take apart as I need. So this is what I mean. Every coordinate is made up of an x and a y. We all know that. We've used coordinates a lot this year. We need to know our rotation of 90, our rotation of 180, and our rotation of 270. By remembering the flip and negate method, you're going to be able to recall all 3 of these rules. Let's see what I mean. What I mean by flip is you're going to flip your x and your y. So instead of it being xy, it's now yx. And then you're just going to negate the sign in the front. Negate means either make your number that's positive into a negative or negative into a positive. Negate just means change the sign. 180, you're going to flip and negate again. You're going to flip the 2 coordinates. So this is x, negative y, and then negate the number in front. So the rule for 180 is negative x, negative y. And then for 270, we're going to continue the process of flipping and negating. So we've got negative y, negative x, and change the sign on the front. By remembering your flip and negate, flip and negate, flip and negate, you can write these down pretty effortlessly. It's just as important to know what they actually mean, and that's what you're going to see next. So our 90-degree rotation rule is negative y, negative yx. So very, very, very important. 180, negative x, negative y. And 270 is y, negative x. Now I'm going to erase this to make room for my actual rotation. You should have plenty of room on your paper though. And I'm going to be all set. So here we go. We're going to actually use those rules and see what they mean. Here's my original. It's in quadrant 1. Rotating at 90 degrees counterclockwise means that I'm going to rotate it this way. I'm going to go from quadrant 1 over here to quadrant 2. There's no way to guess where it's going to go. There's no counting or anything like that. You need your rule to make sure that you do it right. So if A has an original coordinate of 1, 2, and I want to rotate it 90 degrees, what I have to do is turn the coordinate into negative y, x. Well, it's up to you. A lot of us still label when we're finding slope and things like that, just to remind us which value is x and which value is y. It might be a good idea here. So what our A prime is going to be under a 90-degree rotation is we're going to flip, so we get 2, 1, and negate the front number. That's what this negative means. It doesn't mean make it negative. It means change the sign. Right now the 2 is positive. We are going to turn it into a negative. So there's your A prime for a 90-degree rotation. Now let's look at B. We've got 4, 5. We're going to rotate it 90 degrees, so it's at B prime. We're going to flip and negate. And that's all there is to it, guys. You're going to flip your x and your y and change the sign on the front number. That will always be your rule for a 90-degree rotation. No matter where your original is on the x and y, if you follow the rule, you'll rotate it 90 degrees. So here we go. We're going to walk to negative 5 and go up to 4. There's my B prime. And A is at negative 2, 1. There's my A prime. You're going to use your straight edge to connect your dots. And you're done. There's your rotation, capital R, of 90 degrees in quadrant 2. The length is still the same. It hasn't changed. It's just rotated. Now the same thing is true for our 180 and our 270, but the only thing is that you got to use a different rule. Now it's up to you. You could flip and negate from the primes and keep the pattern going, or you can do what I'm going to do, and I'm going to stick to the rules. That's what we need to get used to doing, is using these rules. So let's see. Our A was 1, 2. Now we're going to do a 180-degree rotation. So this was our 90 degrees. Now we're at 180. So we're taking our originals. That's why it's so important to label. We're not rotating the primes 180. We're rotating A and B 180. So 90 would bring it into quadrant 2. 180 would bring it into quadrant 3. So if we don't end up down here in the third quadrant, something went wrong. The rule says I'm going to negate the x and negate the y. Now it's very important to understand what these rules are saying. See how the x is still first and the y is still second? We haven't flipped anything. The x and the y remains the same. The only thing that changes are the signs. So it's still 1, 2, but we've got to change the sign on the x and the sign on the y. That's what those negatives mean, to change the signs. B was at 4, 5. We're going to do a 180-degree rotation, which is going to make it negative 4, negative 5. So we're going to start at 0. We're going to walk to negative 4 and fall to negative 5. B double prime. And then we're going to walk to negative 1 and fall to negative 2. And there's A double prime. Find your straight edge. No sloppy papers. No writing in pen. We want pencil in case we make a mistake. And there's our rotation of 180 degrees from AB. 90 degrees is your primes, and then 180 is 270. Notice that A is staying the closest to the origin as it rotates around. All right, and B is kind of on the outside. We're not flipping it at all. We're just kind of spinning it around. And last but not least, we need to go back over and show our work for our 270. So last but not least, we got 270 degrees. We're going to do the same thing, only we're following a different rule. So if A was at 1, 2, what the rule tells us to do is change the coordinate to y negative x. So instead of it being xy, now it's yx. So that's very important. So we're going to have to change the order. Instead of it being 1, 2, it's now 2, 1. The negative is on the back number, so that just means change the sign on the back number. So now I have the coordinate 2, negative 1. And then B was 4, 5. That was the original. We're going to do y negative x. Changing the order will make it 5, 4. And then we got to change the sign on the back number. So that 4 can't stay a 4. It's got to turn into a negative 4. That's all there is to it. When you work with these rules a little bit, you're going to see how easy they are. It just tells you order and then which number needs to have the sign changed. So now we start at 0, 0. We walk to 2 and fall to negative 1. There's a triple prime because it's our third image. And then we're going to walk over to 5 and then fall to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's your B triple prime. We got 3 primes. Use your straight edge, connect the dots, and you're done with your rotation. That's all there is to it. But you're going to have to show your work, and you're going to have to remember your 3 basic rules up here. Now, I was kind of talking as I was plotting about knowing which quadrant your image needs to be. That's really important. It's going to give you a good idea whether you're following your rules appropriately or not. If you start ending up somewhere different, then there's most likely an oops happened. So we're going to start the next one. We're not going to have time to finish it, but hopefully you can finish it on your own, and then we can talk about it in class when we get started tomorrow. So we're going to rotate again, 90, 180, and 270. That's the rule. So our object is XY. Let me change my pen really quick. Our object is always our original, and our original is always made up of an X and a Y. That's always going to be your coordinate. What are we going to do? We're going to flip and negate the front. Then we're going to flip and negate. And we're going to flip and negate. All right, when you're writing the rules, it's a continuous process. Flip and negate, flip and negate, flip and negate. And then once you've got your rules written down, it's as easy as following them. So here we go. We're going to graph our originals. A is 1, 10. So this is a triangle. B is 2, 3. And C is 6, 3. Connect using your straight edge. No reason to get sloppy. Yours should look a little bit nicer than mine. You get to use a straight edge. I have to do it kind of freehand. And now here we go. We're all set. This is your rule. We're going to flip the order. We're going from XY to YX. So flip it over. So instead of it being 1, 10, it's going to be 10, 1. And you're changing the sign in the front. So now that's a negative 10. B, we're going to change the order. Instead of it being 2, 3, it's going to be 3, 2. And again, the rule says change the sign on the front number. So that 3's got to turn into a negative 3. And then C, we're going to switch it from 6, 3 to 3, 6. Change the sign on the front number. So here we go to plot it. We got walk to negative 3, up to 6. All right, that was my C. Then we've got negative 3, 2. So I'm just working my way up. If you want to go up, starting at A and then working your way down to C, that's fine too. You're going to end up with the same thing. And then negative 10, 1. This one's a triangle, so it might help you visualize it a little bit better. That the shape is still the exact same. It's still the same triangle. The sizes are still the same. The only thing that's different is where it is. This one's in the second quadrant. So imagine me kind of just twisting it, kind of, rotating it around and ending up over here. I didn't change the size at all. All I did was kind of move it around. So let's do the 180. 180. Look at the rule before you start changing numbers and changing signs. Please look at the numbers quick. Notice that the number itself hasn't really changed. You know, A is 1 and 10. We're still working with 1s and 10s. It's just the sign and where they are. All right, we're not multiplying by anything. We're not adding by anything. So please be careful with that. All right, our 180 rule says keep the X and the Y in the same position, but change the sign. So A, go back to the original, because this is always comparing it to the original XY. It was 110. It's going to stay 110, but we got to change the sign on both. So that's -1, -10. All right. B double prime, let's see, we started at 2, 3. So it's still going to be 2, 3. That's what the rule says. Keep it 2, 3. But now you're going to change your signs. And then C was 6, 3. It's going to stay 6, 3. But we're going to change our signs. So I'm going to graph it really quick because we're just about out of time. Careful, make sure this ends up with your double primes. -2, -3. B double prime, and then -1, -10. So here's my rotation of 180. It's a good sign that I'm in quadrant 3. I started at 1 and worked my way over to 3. Connecting with a straight edge. Ooh, missed that one. Again, it's easier for you guys to do this than it is for me with the smartboard. I'm going to fix that really quick. Okay, the shape hasn't changed. Again, important for you to realize that. All right, it's just rotating about the origin. I would appreciate it if you tried really quick on your own to find your coordinates of your rotation of 270, and that's where we'll start class tomorrow. So make sure you look it over. We'll practice this in class, and I would be more than happy to answer any questions you might have about the rotations and how to read the rules. See you tomorrow.